We're going to stick with this topic then and speak now to our climate editor, Valérie Dekimpe, who joins me now on set. Hi, Valérie.
Hi, Aaron.
So as I said, Lula spoke a little bit ago. He laid out the main themes of this conference. Tell us more about what's on the agenda in general, starting from Monday.
Right. So usually each COP has a primary theme to focus on. COP28 was about fossil fuels. COP29 in Baku was dubbed the finance COP. You could argue that this is going to be a forest COP, an Amazon COP. But in the end, the theme that could really dominate COP30 is, the 10-year anniversary of the Paris Agreement, the landmark deal to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, and really taking stock of 10 years since that agreement was signed. So under the Paris Agreement, countries had pledged to unveil new climate plans every 5 years. So the overarching goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 remains unchanged, but they had to come up with new plans detailing what exactly they were going to do, emission reduction targets to get to that final goal. These are called NDCs, nationally determined contributions. Countries had a deadline in February to unveil their NDCs. The majority did not do it. And so this will be a COP30 will be a moment of reckoning for leaders to really face the reality that we're not underway to reach those goals. Brazil, interestingly, has even urged leaders not to come to Belém with grand announcements and speeches, but really to honor the pledges that have already been made. We also heard a short while ago from the COP21 summit president. So back in 2015, when the Paris Agreement was signed, who called on leaders to, quote, implement, baby, implement, reference to Donald Trump's calls to drill, baby, drill, but in this case, implement the Paris Agreement now. Going forward. Perhaps one exception to this rule of implementation, there's still unfinished business when it comes to financial support for developing countries. Now, last year in Baku, countries promised to provide at least $300 billion every year by 2035 to vulnerable nations to respond to the effects of climate change and also to transition towards cleaner energy sources. Developing nations say we need at least 3 times that amount of money. And so there is unfinished business in terms of how much, who will pay for it, private, public funding. And so this is still something that needs to be discussed in Belém.
Definitely no shortage of unfinished business, as you say, when it comes to tackling climate-related challenges. Now, Valérie, Brazil is, of course, home to the Amazon, been described as the world's lungs time and time again. So rainforest, as you said, there will be an important topic. Now, his flagship proposal, Lula's, for this COP is a forest fund. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so the Tropical Forests Forever Facility, as it is called. And so it aims to support more than 70 countries in protecting their own rainforests. And so it is described as a permanent trust fund. Tropical countries like Cameroon, Colombia could earn millions of dollars every year under the scheme. And so the idea being to create a revenue stream for countries and therefore remove the incentive to chop down trees. So Brazil hopes to attract $25 billion from governments and another $100 billion from private investors like pension and sovereign funds. And what's interesting is that this is not your typical grant model scheme, giving grants to countries and not expecting a lot in return. This is also different from carbon credits, countries paying other foreign countries for carbon credits. This really works like an investment fund. And so the capital, the $125 billion, will be injected into emerging economies to generate profits. And so the returns on these investments will repay investors from the private sector and also will flow towards those tropical countries that have shown to protect their rainforests and have kept their forest cover intact based on satellite images. And so it is seen as a win-win situation because essentially you are providing funding for developing nations to protect their forests, but you're also using private capital to actually, for conservation efforts. Brazil has pledged $1 billion to the fund. You were saying just now that Germany is in favor of the fund. China, Indonesia have announced their intention to invest, but it remains to be seen how much money they will be providing. And so Brazil really making this their flagship announcement and hoping that more countries will come forward over the course of the next 2 weeks with money on the table.